Welcome to Sips with Scrubs, a nurse podcast where I talk about the good, bad, and ugly of being a nurse. I'm your host, Nurse Lenny, for those who are new tuning in. And hopefully, you guys enjoyed today's episode. For those who are watching on YouTube, you can see that it's just me today. So, hopefully, y'all like what we have in store. Today, I am sipping on water, nothing fancy here. I was not in the mood to drink anything else today. So I was like, why force a situation that doesn't need forcing? So wherever you are right now, pour a glass, wine, water, tea, coffee, whatever suits your fancy, and sip with me throughout today's episode. Today's bad scrub is a nurse named Yvette Hunter. She's 52-year-old female, and she was charged with the murder and death of 97-year-old war veteran. So I actually don't. I probably pre-read this at some point, but I'm basically going to read the article to y'all and kind of try to skip around to the good bits, so that y'all can get an idea of what happened. So, Yvette Hunter was a former Kentucky nurse. She was charged with murder stemming from an incident in which she gave something special, air quotes around that, to a 97-year-old patient who died 5 days later, according to multiple sources. So, Yvette, she's been a registered nurse and she was previously an LPN, and they're just restating what that summation was. I don't know why they do that. But the patient was James Morris. He was a veteran of World War II in the Korean War, and he was being treated at Baptist Health Lexington after a slip and fall injury. So allegedly, Hunter gave the patient lorazepam, and that's typically used for anxiety. And that was on April 30th of 2022 that she administered that. And then after that, he developed pneumonia and died on May 5. I don't know why I can't talk today. Anyway, bear with me. So they said the police department report said that Hunter intentionally performed actions of medical maltreatment. Okay, so let's skim down to see how is this supposed to link together with her giving him lorazepam and then him getting pneumonia. Like, what does that have to do with each other? So the Kentucky Board of Nursing suspended Hunter's RN license on a temporary basis. She allegedly asked the on-duty physician and a nurse practitioner separately for a medication ordered to calm Morris, who had become agitated and aggressive. They denied Hunter's request, so she withdrew lorazepam intended for another patient and administered it to Morris. Wow. The nursing board suspension order states when asked what was administered, she replied something special. She got some nerve, huh? So another RN found the patient with labor breathing, and it was determined that respondent had disarmed slash lowered the oxygen monitoring system several times as to not set off an alarm at the bedside. The RN discussed with charge nurse that the patient had been given something intravenously that was causing his decline. When the charge nurse entered the room later, she found the patient in respiratory distress with labored breathing and poor oxygen saturation. X-ray shows that the aspiration from the substances ingested by the patient while in his condition caused the patient to develop aspirational pneumonia. Wow. Okay, despite the rapidly declining condition of the patient, respondent never called for rapid response nor acted with any sense of urgency. Respondent did, however, edit documentation of administration of Ativan on patient B to state not given. Moore's condition never improved, and he was taken to hospice on the 3rd of May, and he died 2 days later. So she's currently being held in Lexington jail on a $100,000 bond. So this actually was a couple of months ago. So right now, when I'm filming this, it's the end of November. Y'all know I kind of pre-record at times. So this article actually came out in August 24th. So I'm gonna look up to see if there's anything new that's developed with this case, to see if there's any updated information. Let's see, guys. Everything I see is from August. Yeah, everything I see is from August. Okay. Also, if you guys want to get a more in-depth description of this incident, I see while I'm looking it up, the nurse Liz on YouTube also covered it. So she probably went into depth, and she released that video a month ago, which would be October for those who are listening, because like I said, this is going to come out later. If there's anything new in regards to this case, definitely let us know down below in the comment section on my Instagram page so we can stay up to date. I like to do bad scrubs because it just highlights different ways that people practice nursing and gives you an idea of like what not to do, I could say. In some cases, I feel like sometimes we don't really have a good idea of like what could actually get us in trouble and what is not. Like, you've done like something bad did happen out of that situation, but you've done everything on your part to cover the necessary basis, so you should be okay. I feel like that's not always clear with nursing, so I like to cover bad scrubs just to see what people did and like what caused them to get arrested and things like that. So with this case, there was like multiple issues going on here of like stuff that she shouldn't have done. She pulled a medication. Well, let's just start from the top. So from the top, she asked the physician and the nurse practitioner for an order. They both told her no. And then instead of like trying to see if they would give the patient something else or like describing the situation, it seems like to me, to rationalize why the patient might need something or if there's something that he can get instead, she went against what they said, which you can't do because we're not medical. Not medical professionals, but we're like not doctors, right? So we don't have, that's not within our scope of practice. So she's practicing outside of her scope of practice by trying to administer this medication, especially after they said no. Now, I feel like if you didn't like understand why are you saying no, like this patient is like this, you can ask that, and most of the time they'll give you a reason like, hey, like, oh, he's at risk of developing pneumonia or aspirating, so we're not gonna prescribe this to him. And sometimes that's just what it is. Like, unfortunately, like the patient has to be like a little bit agitated at times because of the other risks that are involved with administering certain medication. So it seems to me she didn't do any of that, of course, and then she bypassed that. And then, so that's one thing. She administered a medication that was not prescribed to a patient. Aside from that, she pulled it from underneath another patient name, and then she falsely documented on that. And then after the administration, it wasn't like she followed up with the things that happened. So like, you turned off the monitoring alarms that is alarming you that the oxygenation is going down. You silenced those, and then another nurse came and saw it. You didn't call a rapid response for the patient. Like, you didn't do anything after you already messed up to like make the situation any kind of better. It was like mistake after mistake after mistake. It's just weird. And then I wouldn't even say it's a mistake. I feel like it's a choice because you consciously made that decision. Like, you were told no and you decided you wanted to give it to that patient anyway, and that's what you decided to do. Like, it's not like you accidentally pulled a different medication and gave it to the patient and that caused the patient to die. Like, you made a choice to do it. So it's a little bit different. That's like intentional at that point. And then even after you intentionally did something you weren't supposed to, you didn't follow the other protocols that are supposed to safeguard patient safety. So there is that. I think I already said that she falsely documented. So it's just a lot of problems here. So I'm interested to see where this case goes. Like I said, I'm sure Nurse Liz gave a way more detailed version than I am. So if you guys are interested in listening to that, definitely check her out on YouTube. If there's any new information in regards to this case, let me know down below, like I said. And if y'all have any recommendations for bad scrubs that y'all would like me to cover, then go ahead and do that too. I don't really understand, like, why. Like, why do these people do these things? Like, I understand when people get in trouble for mistakes and, like, they didn't know or something like that. But, like, it's just, like, what's going on with y'all that y'all just giving people medications like this and y'all just making choices? Like, I don't know. I don't know. So next we're going to get into what would Lainey do. So today with what will Lainey do, this nurse is asking, how do y'all deal with failure? She says that she's not taking it too well and she needs some advice, and a hug wouldn't hurt either. So I actually was really trying to think about a time I failed, and I think that it begins with what you believe failure to be. I think that I am more accepting of failure because I look more of it as a learning tool than I'm inadequate. So I think that I deal with failure a little bit better probably than most people because I don't think that I'm inadequate. I feel like if you already have a self-esteem issue or if you feel like you're not worthy of something, then it'll hit you harder. But then at the same time, I feel like if you feel like you're not worthy of something, then why do you think you should have it? I don't know. Um, but just based off of how my brain works and how I move about my life and how I do stuff, I see it more as constructive criticism. So if I am trying to choose something and I don't make it, either I didn't prepare enough to get it, it's not my time yet to get it, or like it's just some other reason and I'm just not meant to do it. So I kind of see it as that, and I try to differentiate which situation I'm in because there's a lot of instances that I feel like when I was younger I was a little bit more cocky and I didn't properly prepare. This is before nursing school. I felt like, yeah, I'm good at this and I'll just do this and I'll get in. But at the same time, I'm like, did I really want to do it because I didn't try? Like, you know how like you try, but you don't try like your hardest. You just give it a go. Basically, and it's like if I get in, I get in, and if I don't, I don't. I feel like that's kind of how I treated some things. I didn't give it my best, and when I didn't obtain what I was seeking to get, then I wasn't really too disappointed with myself because I'm like, I know I could have done this better. Now at nursing school, I did have to drop a class because I felt like if I would have continued on, I would have probably failed and then my other grades in my other classes would have suffered. So I decided to drop it before that time. I feel like with that, I didn't really see it as failure because I was just like, not understanding certain concepts with the pace of the class. So I knew the situation for what it was, but I guess you can say that that's failure. Let me look at what failure is anyway. I'm like a stickler for definitions and things of that nature because I just really don't see certain things as like, I guess maybe I do see it as failure and I just am not upset at it because there's always something I feel like I can do. I don't know. So failure means lack of success or the omission of expected or required action. That's the other term or definition for it. Y'all know how multiple things have different definitions. Okay, now I'm looking up success. See, all this stuff I feel like it's subjective and it's like what's like success to one person is not the same as another person and so on and so forth with failure. So I'm trying to relate it to me, but I just think that I don't think of myself as ever really failing anything. But I'm like, I have tried stuff and it's not worked out in my favor before. And maybe I just rationalize it away and I don't feel like bad about it because I did that. I think I get down on it like for a little bit, like, dang, that sucks. But then I'm just like, I make up a plan and I'm like, okay, what can I do about this? I think that's what I do. I acknowledge like what was missing and how did it cause, like why didn't I get that? And then I think of what am I going to do now? So I think I just move on quicker and I'm just like, okay, well, if I'm still, there's multiple ways to get certain things. It might just take you longer. So I think that I just do that and I'm just like, okay, like what's my action plan? And then most of the time if I really do want something and I buckle down and I make a plan, normally I carry it out and I succeed. So I think that that might be why I don't ever really feel like I failed that much because I just feel like you just didn't try hard enough. But there are instances where you could try all you want and it's just not gonna happen. So I don't know. Y'all let me know down below in the comments how y'all feel about failure and how you deal with it. And then let me know what y'all think about what I said. Because I feel like everything that I ever really wanted in life, I got. Yeah, I'm really trying to think. I'm like, I think that I've not had a big thing that I failed at. I think the stuff that I failed at was like little stuff that I don't really think it might have mattered to me at the time, but it didn't really matter in the long run. I know I had a really hard time trying to not figure out what I want to do because I always knew I wanted to do something in the medical field. It took me longer to become a nurse because that's not what my initial plan was. I was initially trying to be a doctor, but I decided that I didn't want the lifestyle that it would take to get there. Like I didn't want to be in school that long. I didn't want that amount of depth. I mean debt. I didn't want to be working all these hours, and like I felt like my life would be starting later, and I felt like nursing fit me better. Doctors didn't do exactly what I thought they did. So I just switched paths, and it took me longer to become a nurse, and I was discouraged at some points because people were graduating and things like that, and I'm still in school. And I had a hard time with the fact that I was going to community school. Before, I think with my age group, they kind of had a stigma on community college as if you're not smart enough to go to a university when that's not necessarily always the case. So I think it's a little bit more acceptable nowadays to go to like a junior college and or go to community college or go to trade schools. So I have problems with that, but as far as like failing something, I don't think I had any problems yet with that. But yeah, y'all definitely let me know down below in the comments and we could discuss it further there. So next I wanted to pick a conversation card here. I'm trying to shuffle them because I don't want to have something that I've had before. So let's see. Okay, we talked. I think we might have talked about this before. So I'm going to try to choose another one. Why I keep picking the ones that we talked about before on here? And I shuffled them. Come on. Okay, let's see. Which class did you have the most difficulty with in nursing school? I think my most difficult class was med-surg, the first one. I think that's the one I dropped, if I'm not mistaken. Dang, I wish I had a better memory than this. I'm pretty sure it was med-surg. Or was it my first semester when I was doing patho, fundamentals? I had a hard time with pharmacology too, but I didn't fail that one. I know that. So I can't remember if it was pharmacology or if it was med-surg, patho, fundamentals. I can't remember what the other class I took with that. It was 3 classes, and that whatever the other one was, I think is the one I dropped. But I'm gonna just go forward and say med-surg because no, I won't even say med-surg. Med-surg was just a lot of information. I felt like pharmacology I had a hard time with because I was like, how am I supposed to remember all this stuff? And people do say like, oh, it's all memorization and stuff like that, but it actually really didn't even make sense to me what they were talking about in a lot of the class. Like I did what I had to do to pass. Like I think I was doing like memorization tricks and stuff, but I didn't really understand like the effects certain medications had on the bodies and stuff like that. I don't think it was until later, like after I became a nurse, when more stuff was starting to make sense to me as far as the different classes of medications, and like it was easy to remember like the suffixes and stuff when I was taking the class, but like the action it was having on the body and what that actually meant, I don't think I fully grasped that until after I became a nurse. And even now, I mean, it's just so many different types of medications that you can get, and so many that are prescribed, you know? Like nowadays, it's like, now that I'm in real life nursing, they prescribe like the same ones pretty much over and over again, but like, and now you have the luxury of looking it up before you give it to a patient if you see one that's out of the ordinary that you haven't seen before. But like as far as like learning it and then trying to take a test on it, and oh, this one caused this side effect, and this one has a black box warning, and this one you shouldn't give to these type of patients because of this. I'm like, that's just too much information to be remembering. So I think I'd say that pharmacology was my hardest class, or the one I had the most difficulty with, and then med surge. Some of med surge was easier because some of the stuff you were familiar with certain diseases because of like medical shows, or because of like real life, like you know what a heart attack is, you know what a stroke is, like some stuff you've seen in real life before. As far as those drugs, like I was not familiar with medications at all before nursing school. Like I didn't even know like street drugs. Like I didn't know anything of that, and I was like, oh, that's what this is. Oh, that's like, I ain't know about no Percocets and all that stuff until I was in nursing school, and I was like, that's what they be talking about in the songs. I was just like naive, I guess, but that's what I would say my most difficult class was. Y'all let me know about down below what was y'all most difficult class that y'all experienced in nursing school. And after med surge, nursing school is like easy for me. After the first med surge, like med surge 2 was fine for me. And after that, I was up like peds, L&D, all that other stuff, mental health. Like I like soared through those classes. Like I studied like I did the rest of them, but like I didn't have any difficulty with them at all. So what's next? So I wanted to talk about a thing called destination addiction. And I got this terminology from the podcast See the Thing Is one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to every time an episode drops. And I really like it because I like more conversational types of podcasts. Like interviews and stuff are fine, but I feel like after you've seen, I mean, different people have their own different way of interviewing, and it brings out different parts of like the artist or like whoever they're talking to and stuff like that. And if I like a particular artist, I'll just watch them just to see them or whatever. But for the most part, for podcasts, I like conversational type stuff where they just talk about different sorts of things. Like the current event ones, I just kind of get tired of. I only need to listen to one person's opinion, kind of. And sometimes I feel like a lot of people think the same thing, so I'm just not interested or whatever. But this one is kind of a mix. They do talk about some recent events, and then they also just talk about different life experiences, I guess. And they're older than me, so it kind of gives me different perspectives. And now at this point in time, one of them is older. Well, she's not, old, but she's older than me. She's 30 something, and she's single, and she has her own business. And then the other host, she's now a fiance, and she's like older 30s and stuff. So it kind of, your life experience determines your perspective on things. So I said all that to say that I like it because I'm not where they are yet. So it gives me an idea of what life could possibly look like, and also just a different perspective than what my peers may think of certain situations, because we're kind of like in similar, we grew up similarly. That's why we're friends, right? So it just offers me a different alternative. So that's who hosts the podcast, and they were talking about this thing called destination addiction. And I was trying to look it up before I brought it on here, but I couldn't find the exact spot. Next time I need to remember, I need to write stuff down so I don't forget. But the point of it is that in this life, people are so focused on getting to where they're supposed to be that they don't enjoy where they are, and they don't enjoy the journey. And it's just like a kind of like what's next mindset. And I wanted to talk about that because that used to be me. I used to always be thinking about what's next. And in part that was because it's like you always have these goals, right? Or at least that's how I grew up. My dad used to make us write like 1 year plans and 5 year plans and 10 year plans and stuff like that. So I always was like, okay, and after this, I'm gonna do this, and after that, I'm gonna do this, and after that, I'm gonna do this. You know what I mean? And I feel like in general, society has set out how life is supposed to look for people. And so you kind of have like a broad stroke of what your life may be. Now, the in between parts is kind of like cloudy until you get there in some instances. And listening to this podcast just reminded me of like where I used to be, where I'm kind of like, what's next? And then I get to what's next, and then I think about what's next after that, but I'm not actually taking the time to appreciate where I'm at right now and thinking about how hard I tried to get to where I am now and being grateful for where I am now. And I think that's basically it. So I wanted to talk about that today. So that's kind of the thought process behind this topic. And it also made me laugh because when I was listening to that, on my screensaver on my phone, I had screenshotted a quote. Y'all know I'm a Pinterest girl if y'all have been watching, but the quote says, in between your goals, remember that there's a precious thing called life that has to be enjoyed. So I feel like I pretty much have my life planned out up until the point where I graduated nursing school. And after that, it's kind of been like a play by play. Like, I can give you like what I want to do by next year, but other than that, like, it's kind of like, I don't know. I would think I would have this or I would think I have that. But it's like, I have the job I want. I'm married. I mean, I guess the next thing that's reasonable that people think about is kids. And it's just kind of like when that comes, that comes. But other than that, it's kind of like, well, what do you do with the rest of your time in your life? Because I'm still pretty young and I got a lot of life to live. So it's kind of like, what would you like to do? And like, now that you've achieved like the important goals, I guess you could say, because now I'm in a stable position financially, so there is no need for me to try to get a better job or anything like that. I feel like with life, the main thing people are trying to do, I've done, if that's what they want anyway, that is to say. Most people are trying to like get an education and get a good job, or they're like pursuing a relationship and either wanting to be married or want to be with a partner or whatever relationship status that you want to have, they're doing that. Or even if you don't want to be in a relationship, you're just like hanging out with different types of people and dating around. It's always that. But I'm like, I've done that and I'm happy with where I'm at. So it's kind of like, what's next, right? And that's kind of why I was laughing, because it's like at this point it's kind of like life, like now it's like you've done that part of the thing. Now it's time to enjoy what you got going on now. So there's little things that I can do or whatever, but it's nothing that's probably gonna be life altering. But it's just an interesting spot to be in, and I wanted to talk some about it because I want to encourage people and also let people know they're not alone. Like, you're not always going to know what's next and what you're supposed to be doing, quote unquote, or, sometimes a lot of life might be like the in between spots. Like, you're not here yet, but you're not where you were, type of thing. And that's fine too. Like I said, it's supposed to be enjoyed, right? It is life. The time is going to pass regardless. So you need to take time out to appreciate where you are right now, because you won't get that time back. And there was a point that I was trying to go with that, but I actually just forgot. But I'm just saying right now that I'm satisfied with where I'm at. And luckily for me, I'm kind of not one of those people that let people influence them, so to speak, just because they think you should be here and you're not. Like, me and my husband, we're not rushing to have kids. Like, I really wanted to enjoy time having like my own money before I share it with somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, having kids definitely changes your life and how you allocate your time, money, and energy and all this other stuff. And it's like once they're here, you can't really give them back. So I know for myself, I was like, I want to like enjoy my time. Like I feel like I've been working and I'm still working like a job, but like I've been like going to school and doing this and doing that and doing this, and like this is the first time where I'm like just going to work, and then like that's really it. It's really not that much when you think about it. Like just going to work, just going to work 3 times a week, and after that, it's like okay, I could do what I want to do, and I wanted to hang on to that for a while anyway, and enjoy it before my life changes again. So I'm in currently in the in between your goals, right? So I was saying that to say that a lot of people will be like, they love for people to be having kids without knowing their financial status and everything else that goes into place with that. But I have an idea of like I said, of what I want my life to look like. I want to be a very present parent, and I don't want to have to be stressed about things that I don't have to be stressed about if I don't have to be stressed about them. Like some people, they're just in situations because that's the situation they're in, but like that's not the hand I was dealt. So I have the ability to control the narrative a bit. So I'm just like, I'm not rushing to do nothing. And he's kind of on the same page with me. So I'm like, bet, like, that's cool. And then as far as like work goes, it's like the obvious next step, or not obvious. Kids is the obvious next step for us right now, unless people just don't want to have them. But the other obvious next step, like in my job, would be like some people would be like, oh, go back to school to be a nurse practitioner, or go back to school to do this, or go back to school to do this. And it's just like, I have no desire to go back to school. I think y'all might have heard me say that several times if y'all listen to this podcast. Like, when I tell you no desire at this time, so it's just kind of like, why would I put myself in a situation I know I don't want to be in, you know? Just because somebody thinks that I should be doing something else because I'm smart enough, or, you know, whatever. Sometimes it's not about being smart enough to do something. Like, I just don't want to do it. I was saying that because a lot of people are like, you should try to do this because you can. Like, that's not that's not a thing for me. Like, just because I can do it don't mean I am going to do it. Like, I am smart enough to do a lot of things, but I'm like, just because I have the ability to do it doesn't mean that's what I want to do. Maybe I will later, but right now it's a no. But um people have been trying to say, "Oh, go back to school, do this." And I'm just like, for what? I don't even know if that's really what I want to do. And where I'm at now, I'm like completely satisfied. So why would I change a situation that I'm completely satisfied with for one that I'm unsure about? It just doesn't make sense. I just feel like a lot of people get and obtain I don't want to say accolades, but like degrees. I don't want to get a degree and not use it, basically. Like, what is the point of that to me? And then sometimes people will say like, oh, money or whatever, more opportunity. Well, what other opportunity are you trying to get? If you're not really trying to get another opportunity to do anything, then I don't think there's a point in doing it. I definitely don't think there's a point in me going into debt, you know, to get a degree I'm not even sure I want to do. And what would I do with it? You know what I'm saying? So sometimes, especially now that I'm in a stable position, money is not enough of an answer for anything. It has to be money and something. Like where I'm at now, I get paid a good amount. I have a flexible schedule, and I got all the stuff that I like about bedside nursing without really any of the cons. There's new cons, but those are some that I'm willing to deal with at this time. Now, I do know eventually something is going to have to change because I don't feel like you should do bedside forever. I don't know if that's a controversial statement or not. I don't feel like you should be old and doing bedside, like physically old. Like, I just don't, unless you're like a full time charge nurse. So I'm like, I like going to the hospital and I like doing stuff like that, but eventually I'm going to have to step away from the bedside. And with that, I don't know what I'll be moving into because whatever it is, I'm going to take a pay cut. So it's going to have to be something positive on a different area that I'm willing to take a pay cut for. You know what I mean? And then also, I probably won't like have the same amount of flexibility. So as with the money, it'll have to be something else that's positive about it that'll be worth it. The only thing I could think of right now is probably something that's less physically demanding and less stress. That might be some things to look forward to, but it's gonna have to be some other things as well for me to take a pay cut and to take less flexibility. So right now in my life, I'm just, you know, content with where I'm at, making do with what I have. I still, I'm buying what I want, I'm going where I want when I want, and I like that for me. So I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this topic, the whole destination addiction thing. What do y'all think about that in the comments? Do y'all think that that's a thing that society deals with, or do y'all think that it's just another little fake terminology that somebody came up with? I feel like there's all these phrases now for everything, like that buzzwords like toxic and gaslighting and all this stuff. So y'all let me know. Do y'all think destination addiction is just like another little cute phrase or psychological term or whatever, or do y'all think it's the actual thing that people suffer it? So before we get out of here, we are going to scrub and sip. So I got a couple of things I can probably scrub, but today we're going to scrub. I actually was supposed to go to work today, but I decided not to because I didn't want to. And so I was trying to call in, and I think I don't know if I still haven't really figured out the whole call in thing because I haven't really had to call in much because I make my schedule how I want it to be made. So for the most part, I go to work, I think this might be my third call in, but I can't even remember. So since March, and it's November, I might have had 3 call ins. I don't know. But anyway, with this one, I was trying to call the facility. So this is from what I know that I've done previously. I call whatever facility. For those who don't know, I'm float pool. So I'm not like, bound anywhere. So it's not as cut and dry as it normally would be. So from what I've done in the past, I call the facility that I'm scheduled to work at for that day. I call them and tell them I'm calling in, right? So with this one, I tried to call the facility to let them know like I'll be unavailable today to come in, and nobody was answering the phone, and I called like 5 times. So the first couple of times I called, I was just like, okay, like no one's answering. So I was like, let me email like the email we emailed to like set our schedule and to communicate with the different people who's over the float pool. But it's like at this point it's like 11 o'clock at night. So I don't really know what the protocol is because those people work days, right? So everybody's off. So I'm just kind of like, okay, so how are they supposed to relay this message to the facility before the cutoff time or whatever? Because I'm like, I'm not trying to be labeled as a no call, no show. And I'm not trying to be like a late call in. And a late calling, I think it's like something like if you call in less than an hour before your shift, it's like more points or some crap like that. I can't exactly remember. But I wasn't like trying to do that. And I'm not trying to wake up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning either if I don't have to try to call in for something that I can do right now, right? I already know I don't want to go. So it was like 11 o'clock at night. So I called them twice. They didn't answer. I sent the email to the people. And at that point, I'm kind of like, do I leave it alone? Or do I try to like continue to call them until I get a human on the phone? So I really wasn't sure what to do. And it kind of had me anxious. But at the same time, I was just like, F it, what am I supposed to do, right? So I had wrote the email, like I said. And then in that email, I told them I attempted to call the staffing office twice, but they didn't answer. So I think for that, even if they tried to use that against me, I think I've had some bad situations in nursing where I just don't trust people anymore. But I just felt like somebody was going to try to use that against me. And I'm like, no, I tried to do the proper thing or what I think is the proper thing. But protocols are not exactly clear because this is like a new position or whatever. And then nobody's answering. I don't know what to do. And I tried to do everything I know to do. So I was just like, I hope they don't like try to reprimand me and be like, you should have done this. And I just didn't know that I should have done that. So I put in there, like that I tried to call and they didn't pick up and blah, blah, blah. And I even called them again after I sent the email. So at that point, it's been like 30 minutes later. They didn't answer that either. And then I conveniently woke up, I guess, before 5 o'clock or something, because I had turned my alarms off a little bit before 5. I woke up because I had to go to the restroom, and so I tried to call them again just in case, and they still didn't answer. So I was just like, at this point, like, I'll screenshot the call log if I got to, and if they try to like take it up with me, but that didn't end up happening. But I'm scrubbing the anxiety that I felt from that, because I was just like, am I gonna have to end up going to work when I really don't want to because I couldn't properly call in or what? So I'm scrubbing that because I was just like, girl, like, this is too much. So I'm scrubbing that, and then I'm sipping to the facility I work, or the company I work with, because I got trust issues, but I don't think they actually would probably try to use anything against me in that way when I tried to do the things that I could. So when I woke up, I think it was like at 6. I mean, I didn't wake up at 6, but when I saw the email, they sent me an email back at 6 o'clock saying that they reached out to the facility and let them know that I wasn't coming, and they adjusted the schedule and blah, 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 blah. So I was just like, oh, okay, cool, thanks. So I'm sipping to that today, because that was, even though I was having anxiety with the whole process, they didn't reprimand me or anything of what I was fearing could have happened. So shout out to them for always being, understanding and trying to meet you in the middle instead of trying to jump to like, let me punish you type of thing. So cheers to them. Y'all let me know what y'all sipping down to below in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next episode.